Good morning. It's actually good to be back here at the Paramount Theater, the site in 1995 after Cal Anderson's funeral, where we came to mourn and to celebrate his life. And in 2006, after the 29-year battle to pass the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender bill, we came here to celebrate that victory. As you know, I have been seriously considering running a write-in campaign for mayor. I've given a great deal of thought over the recent days, and as I said last week, I did a poll. And while the poll showed a pathway forward, if I were to do a write-in campaign, as with most write-in campaigns, that pathway was narrow and uncertain. It hasn't been an easy decision, but after soul-searching on my part, I decided it's not in Seattle's best interest for me to pursue our write-in effort. Make no mistake, I love this city, and I love serving as your mayor. I love being mayor more than anything I have done in my life. I said 4 years ago when I was first running for mayor that Seattle is a special place, and I believe that even more strongly after my time in office. But it is also not the easiest place to govern. Serving as mayor of Seattle is an incredible, exciting opportunity, but it's also a hard job. And sometimes it can be a frustrating one. But it also provides a real opportunity to make a difference, a positive difference, in the lives of the residents of this community. In the last 4 years, I have come to City Hall every morning to push forward a vision of a Seattle that is more equitable, affordable, and progressive. We have been able to move forward against tremendous headwinds. Forces like the Trump administration, the rising cost of living, income inequality, and race that threatens to tear apart the very fabric of our city, as it does every major American city. And the increasing cynicism about government and its ability to do good and be innovative and serve people's interests. If we don't handle those headwinds with strength and skill, they will force us to compromise our values and become a Seattle that we no longer recognize. In my time as mayor, working together, we increased the minimum wage and led the nation by going to $15 an hour. We created HALA to build more affordable housing, actually tripling the affordable housing that's being built in Seattle. In many ways, HALA is the equivalent of Obamacare. It may not be perfect, but if it doesn't move forward, 20,000 families will not have affordable housing in this city. We passed the largest expansion of bus transit service since Metro was created. We now have high-quality preschool with major subsidies for low-income children. We grew our utility discount program from 14,000 to over 30,000 enrolled, putting money back in the pockets of poor families who need that money. We formed a park district to provide steady increased revenue, to grow our open space, and expand our community center hours. Throughout city government, we've implemented a commitment to the best practices of governance, including data-driven decisions, measuring what works, greater transparency, fiscal responsibility, and cultivating a culture of innovation across the city. For an example, we reformed our city's pension, and we publish over 86 metrics across the departments online. Many municipalities and states across this country struggle with issues like pensions, but we were able to find a way forward with our unions. And we're reforming our approach to homelessness and our strategy that represents accountability and best practices while staying true to our compassion. Yesterday's announcement about the rebidding of $30 million worth of contracts in the Human Service Department is the single biggest change ever in the human service delivery system of this city. And a very important point, we did this through collaboration. We did this through consensus building, not the politics of divisiveness, but a brand of inclusive politics and governing that is in short supply today. This is only to start the actions that I believe are necessary to keep moving us forward. Democracy does not work without compromise and collaboration. So I considered my options. I realized that one of the most important things to me that we maintain and build upon the progressive values that we have built over my 4 years as mayor, and that we have a mayor with strong progressive values, experience, the ability to provide the kind of steady, thoughtful leadership that Seattle needs in these changing times. As mayor, I've worked to bring our city's diverse constituencies together to find innovative solutions to the problems we face. Over my years in politics, I have found that one of the easiest things to do is to heighten divisions and drive wedges to score empty political points. And one of the hardest things to do is to actually bring people together, to find common ground, to implement real solutions for the problems that we face. I have tried to do the hard thing, and while I have not always succeeded in every case, I'm proud of the track record we made. So I had to consider my options. I tried to decide which would create the most opportunity to keep the progress that we've started going forward. And I realized that although the current primary field is a crowded one, there was one candidate in this race who stood head and shoulders above the rest. There was one candidate in this current field who has the leadership skills to ensure that City Hall does not fall back into the paralysis and divisiveness that we've seen in the recent past. There was one candidate in this race best able to bring people together to find bold and forward solutions, just as I have tried to do during my time as mayor. There was one candidate in this race best suited to govern on behalf of the city as a whole, as opposed to dividing the city on our usual political fault lines, left versus left versus left. We have a clear choice who will keep alive and improve on the unprecedented progress we've made together during my term as mayor, including on police reform, affordable housing, immigration, and income tax, and much more. And while I would love nothing more than to be mayor for another term, I've decided it is time for me to pass the torch to the next leader who will build upon the legacy of progressive achievements that we have achieved. That candidate is Jenny Durkan, and today I'm offering my endorsement in this race to Jenny Durkan. I have known Jenny for almost 3 decades. We worked together during the dark days of the early 90s when the anti-LGBT initiatives were going on and at the height of the AIDS crisis. We worked together in her role as U.S. Attorney on police reform. Over the years, she's been an advisor to me on many of the issues that I faced in the legislature. She has the experience, the temperament, the political skills, and she also has the strong relationships regionally and nationally to move this city forward in a very uncertain time. I ask my supporters to unite around Jenny and help her become the next mayor of the city of Seattle. And now it is my privilege to introduce to you somebody who I believe can take this city to the next level in these very difficult times, Jenny Durkan. Jenny?
Thank you, Mayor Murray, for your very kind words and for your vote of confidence in my campaign. That means a tremendous amount to me. As the mayor has noted, I've known him for many decades, and we have fought shoulder to shoulder on a number of progressive issues we each care about. I am honored to be seeking the office of mayor and honored to be seeking it with his endorsement. I know firsthand how much Ed Murray has given to the city of Seattle. Since this election began for me, which was just a number of weeks ago, I have traveled to every part of this city to hear people, to listen to them. And I see firsthand how much progress we have made on so many fronts, but yet how much is left to be done. I also hear from many points how thankful people are to the mayor for many of the initiatives he has spurred. He cares deeply to his bones about this city, about its future, about the people who live here. I share those loves and concerns for this city. We know that it's not enough just to say words. A lot can be said on the campaign trail, but putting words into action, making sure that progressive values match up with progressive programs and with progress itself is hard. Ed Murray has been a strong and good mayor. I hope that if I am fortunate enough to be elected, that I will also be able to bring people together, to craft bold solutions, and to move this city forward on the things we care about, to make sure that the homeless have a home and the support systems that they need, to make sure that this city can be an affordable city for everyone in every quarter of the city, to make sure that we tackle climate change and other issues. This city has led the nation on many issues and will continue to lead, but we can only do that if we do it together, if we bring people together, and if we really find solutions going forward. I have fought for social justice and have been proud to fight next to the mayor for many issues over the decades. I will continue to fight for those things we all believe in, that we care about. We will make sure that neither Donald Trump nor Jeff Sessions can define for Seattle what its values are. We will move forward on climate change, on social justice, on making sure that we build the city for the next generation. Voters have a lot of candidates to choose from, but I believe that my track record on getting things done, my progressive values speak for what this city is now and should be in the future. I look forward to tackling these tough issues. I look forward to the advice and counsel that Mayor Murray can give me over the next months. And let no one make a mistake. Anyone who knows Ed Murray knows he not only will finish strong, he will finish with decisiveness. So there will only be one mayor until January 1. I look forward to running hard to prove to the people of Seattle that I should and can be the next mayor to move this city forward. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Questions? Well, I'll let Jenny answer, but we had a series of conversations. I kind of wanted to understand what her thinking was. I wanted her to understand some of the things that we had done in the city, our innovative approach to planning, our innovation teams that we put on the ground, some of the people we've brought from around the country who've worked for other major mayors, to get a sense of where she wanted to go. And it was clear to me that the same sort of ideas that I have tried to push in the changes that we've made, such as integrating our entire IT department into one department versus 28, and producing apps that can actually help the homeless, is the sort of same thinking that Jenny had. Go ahead.
I think it's been an organic process. The mayor went through looking at deciding whether he would run as a write-in candidate. I think he made clear that he looked forward and had a path forward, but decided that for him, that the best path forward would be to align with a candidate who shared his values. We've known each other a very long time, and I think it just ended up being a very natural fit, and I am very appreciative of his endorsement.
She texts me first to get to the bottom of this. So.
Follow-up question, though, because Mayor, you and I sat down, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I asked you this question, are you going to endorse anyone? And this was before the lawsuit was dropped, and you said no, because you said, I don't know that it would help anyway. Concerned that what was going on would actually negatively impact whoever you would endorse. So why change your mind? And then, Jenny, are you concerned that some of the cloud over the mayor will impact you negatively, that people wouldn't vote for you for that reason?
I believe the people of the city of Seattle are very discerning. I think they are going to choose their mayor on who they think will be the next best leader. They will look at Mayor Murray and decide that his programs as mayor have been strong, effective programs. While no one in Seattle always agrees on everything, I think that there's a path forward, and I think the follow-up question you ask is, will Ed and I always agree on everything? The answer to that is anyone who's been around us for 10 minutes knows we're not afraid to voice our disagreements. But going forward, I will say that the question now is, what kind of mayor has Ed Murray been? I think he's been a very good mayor. In relation to the lawsuit, I think everyone in this room knows I have both represented people who were victims of sexual violence, but I've also represented people who were wrongly accused. We have a system of due process in this country, and I think it was answered for a number of people when people decided to drop the suit, so now the mayor can continue in his duty as mayor and finish the business of the city as he's been done very effectively.
And, you know, for me, it was a process. First, Jenny was interested in my endorsement, so I was, and there were one or two other candidates who also approached me since we did your interview. I was pleasantly surprised. And in our own polling, I still have a majority of the people who feel that I'm doing a good job, and roughly 2/3 of the people had questions or did not believe the allegations. So I hopefully am not doing damage to Jenny Durkan or anybody else.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
can you talk about the details of the poll and any other detail? I mean, did it, besides saying that you had a high approval rating, what did it say? Did you ask, you know, would you write in my name?
Yeah, I mean, it got really complicated. Certainly, I was one of the top three, but the write-in made it very, very complicated.
Mr. Mayor, could you describe when you made the final choice and who you were speaking with and what that conversation was like?
So we got the polling back. I'm trying to remember what day this is. It's Thursday. So we got the polling back, I believe, on Monday. The other issue I was dealing with is polling alone couldn't determine it. We were also having discussions with folks who understood write-ins. And then, regrettably, the Ethics and Election Committee made a decision to prevent people like myself, elected officials in Seattle, from having a defense fund, which, by the way, I think is fairly reprehensible and goes against our social justice, race and social justice initiatives in the cities and policies, because basically it's a disincentive for folks who come from lower economic backgrounds and minorities to run for city, because people get charged with or accused of things all the time in election. So I personally had to look at the fact that I have huge legal bills, that my husband has had to take on the burden of that, and then if I became mayor again, I wasn't going to be able to pay those off. So it was a series of things. I talked to Michael, I talked to my closest friends, and to my closest advisors.
Mayor Murray, I know you're focused now on being mayor, but have you thought about life after public office?
Well, I can't retire. I don't, so I need to work, and I don't know what that will look like yet. So.
Could you run again?
Well, I made a statement in May in Alki when I withdrew, and I said at that time I have no intentions of running for office again. At this chapter of my life, and I said it was very painful since I've been doing this. Since I was interested in politics as a kid, we were out at Alki, and I mentioned I used to read books about FDR and John F. Kennedy when I was a kid laying on that beach. This has been my life, but it's not going to be my life in the future.
Mayor, you said that you were in the top three in your polling. Who was the third, or was it Jenny Durkan in that top three? Who were the three?
Jenny was one of them. That's about all I'm going to offer. News agencies can go out and poll.
I know that Justin Farrell was seeking your endorsement. Can you speak to why you decided not to endorse her?
It wasn't a matter of not endorsing Justin. I've served with Justin and I respect Justin. It was that in my conversations with Jenny, I really believe, number one, that she has the best chance of winning. And I really do not want to see this city go back to the divisiveness that I inherited. I want to see this, I want this transition to look like the transition between Barack Obama and Donald Trump. The transition I had was my predecessor was unwilling to meet with me. That we inherited an office with basically no paper in it. I want to actually have a transition that represents what is best about democracy. I don't want to go back to the politics I faced in 2013 about who is politically correct, who is left enough. That is only divisive. I don't want to go back to a time when transit measures failed and affordable housing attempts collapsed. So I believe that Jenny has the best chance of winning and not taking us back to that time.
We just assumed that it was Mike again.
Yes.
Top three.
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't know that. Yeah. I don't remember it this time.
Mike McGinn was central in your consideration. This is
Absolutely. No, it's a pro Jenny Durkan. I inherited a human service department that had been through 4 human service directors in 4 years. that it had numerous audits, that was as dysfunctional as the police department I inherited. I inherited a police department where the mayor was fighting with the federal court in Barack Obama's administration on police reform. We had a city that was fighting with the region and with the state. I don't think we want to go back to that. We've reformed our human service department. We've made significant investments in making sure that we use the best practice in homelessness. We have cleaned up basically what was a broken system. And yesterday was one of the most important decisions probably I made as mayor when we rebid all of our contracts on homelessness.
Jenny, can we call you Jenny?
Absolutely.
I feel bad, Mr. Mayor and Jenny.
That's all right.
Since you're here, I have a question that's on a
And I just want to make one thing clear. When he talked about the type of transition, he was not saying he was Barack Obama and I was Donald Trump.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Just want to make that clear.
If you had been mayor, you were in the midst of this police shooting with Sharpton and Lyons and the investigation, would you have gone to that town hall event that the community and the council members had? Would you have attended that event?
I want to say again, I think you can only have one mayor at a time, and I don't think it is helpful for anyone to suggest what they would do. I would say that town hall event, if you are working from the perspective of you want to get to the facts, and you want to have the best and most robust investigation to determine what culpability there would be, what went right, what went wrong, it's important for city officials actually not to interfere in those investigations. I understand why the city council decided they needed to have it, and I think for the community and the family, it was a very important thing for them to express their views and their opinions. But I also think we have to make sure that at the end of the day, when an investigation is completed, that people have confidence in it and that no one can claim that there was some type of overreaching by the executive or others to push the investigation one way or the other.
I want to respond to this too. I spent time with the residents who felt fairly abused by the protest having taken place in their home, basically what is their home in their neighborhood. I spent an evening with them. I spent an evening with the family. Yesterday I spent several hours with maybe 15 to 18 African American ministers. I have spoken out about the issue of police and race since I became mayor. But on the advice of my attorney, that I'm talking about the attorney for the mayor in the mayor's office, Ian Warner, my presence at that council function had two challenges. One is it was a council function, not an executive function, and we have a separation of powers in this city. And secondly, that I could jeopardize the investigation simply by being present in that format.
Just a quick follow-up, if I can. To that end, Chief O'Toole sent a letter, I believe the Seattle Times got, to Councilman Sawant, who had wanted her to be there. And Chief O'Toole, I believe the language was, said that Sawant had a disturbing or a total lack of understanding for how the investigatory process works. Do you echo the Chief's comments?
Absolutely. For all the protests about how we need to reform the police department, she's never once sat down and met with me or my office about the police accountability work that we spent so much time working on that the council passed. Except for, given speeches at protests, I've not seen any work. I've actually not seen her come to my office for maybe several years now. Other council members, I meet with them in their offices, or they're up in my office, usually twice a month, sometimes more.
All right, thanks everybody.
Okay, thank you.